facts come first and where news is done right. And we have big breaking news from coast to coast today. And we begin with a major court victory from President Trump. Sorry, my earpiece is really messed up. Pulling across everything. Sorry, we should have checked that. And begin, all right, with this big victory for the president. And the Supreme Court last night agreed to delay a midnight deadline for the Trump administration to unfreeze nearly $2 billion in foreign aid payments, which is massive. And that is not all. Border crossings are near record low and deportations are near record highs. Here's President Trump speaking yesterday at his first cabinet meeting. Watch.
Over 1 month, illegal border crossings have plummeted by numbers that nobody's actually ever seen before. It's much more than 100%. And we've unleashed American energy at levels that will soon be reported. But we think we're going to get it going very quickly. We have incredible people on the energy front. I think we have really great people on every front. I'll let you know if they're not good, but I think they really are. And we're fighting every day to get the prices down. The inflation is stopping slowly. But part of the reason it's stopping is because of high interest rates and other problems that we inherited. But we have to get the prices down, not the inflation down, the prices of eggs and various other things. Eggs are a disaster. The Secretary of Agriculture is going to be showing you a chart that's actually mind-boggling what's happened, how low they were with us and how high they are now. But I think we can do something about it, Madam Secretary, and I think you're going to do a fantastic job in that position.
And also, breaking just moments ago, some Epstein files were released by the Department of Justice and provided to new media outlets and commentators like DC Drano, Libs of TikTok, and many more, which is pretty exciting. And the files will be released in full to the public at any moment. A source who has reviewed the files said the release spans more than 100 pages, including a list of contacts. And joining me now, Article 3 project founder, our favorite lawyer, the one and only Mike Davis. Thank you so much for being on the program. So much happening today. Wow, wow, wow. We're still getting news coming in on the exact nature of the Epstein files and what we might learn in this first phase. And more broadly, what message does it send to the American people about this new DOJ and FBI, doing what they say they're going to do?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we saw this with President Trump. People are upset that President Trump hired Elon Musk and they're rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, that's exactly what President Trump told American voters he would do. He campaigned on this, and President Trump is doing something that's shocking in Washington, D.C. He's actually doing what he promised American voters he would do. The same thing at the Justice Department. Attorney General Pam Bondi is doing a fantastic job. She announced last night that they're going to release over 250 victim files from the Justice Department. Now, she said she needs to go through those to redact sensitive information so we don't re-victimize these victims. But how long have we been sitting on these files, and why did it take President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi to actually do this?
No, you're right about that. This should have been handled. This should have been done for sure. I get it as a former prosecutor. I always want to protect the victims in it. But yeah, this should have been released a long time ago. So hopefully they're going to go through it expeditiously and make sure that we, get all the information that the public deserves to know. You had a recent piece about the Supreme Court bringing the gavel down on activist judges, which is really important. We talked a lot about this on the show, hamstringing President Trump. Tell the audience what you mean and who you mean by an activist judge.
Well, we saw this again with the campaign. Trump said he was going to bring in Elon Musk, set up Doge, and root out waste, fraud, and abuse. And he's doing exactly what he promised American voters he would do. And he's exercising core Article 2 power, executive power under our Constitution, which requires, it's a constitutional duty on the president to take care that our laws are faithfully executed. And that includes making sure that money appropriated by Congress is not misspent, waste, fraud, and abuse. And that's exactly what President Trump is doing. This is core Article 2 power. He's also hiring, firing, recalling, transferring federal workers, which is his core constitutional duty as the chief executive officer and the commander in chief. And you have these activist judges who are trying to sabotage the president's Article 2 executive powers. President Trump is not trying to steal Article 1 legislative power from Congress. He's not trying to steal Article 3 judicial power from the Supreme Court. These activist judges are trying to steal his Article 2 executive powers.
Well, that's the big problem there, and you're very well versed in this subject matter. What is even, the constitutionality of a nationwide injunction? One judge can entirely put halt to any order that the president makes. It's just outrageous.
No, it's not constitutional because in order to have constitutional standing, as you know, Kimberly, you have to have injury in fact. You have to be a plaintiff before the courts with standing, with injury that can be redressed by the courts. You have specific plaintiffs making claims through a lawsuit and they get specific relief. This idea that you go to these activist judges and then they issue a nationwide injunction against the president of the United States is clearly unconstitutional. And I'm glad that the Supreme Court is starting to put on their big boy pants and stop this, like we saw with the Chief Justice John Roberts last night.
Meanwhile, yeah, that was excellent. Meanwhile, Attorney General Pam Bondi dismissed DEI lawsuits, involving police officers, firefighters, furthering President Trump's, mandate to end all these illegal DEI policies. Talk to us about how this DOJ, under General Bondi, can actually, get the Office of Civil Rights back to its true intended purpose, and what else can get done.
I just had a very good meeting with Attorney General Pam Bondi and Amel Bove, her acting Deputy Attorney General, and many others in the Trump 47 Justice Department.
Yeah, if you hear me coughing,
and it is refreshing because unlike the Trump 45 Justice Department, Pam Bondi has, let's put it this way. She has backbone, right? And she is bold. She is fearless. She is going to follow the law, whether it's ending DEI lawsuits by the Biden Justice Department or releasing these Epstein files or firing people in the Sovereign District of New York who don't think they report to the Deputy Attorney General and the Attorney General. It's nice to have an Attorney General with backbone for once.
Oh my God. And we were waiting for this and talking about it so much on the show, trying to see okay, let's pray for the future, for what's going to happen, that we can do this. But it just seems to me, Mike, the left is back, to their old playbook, right? Weaponizing the law to try to shut him down. But our new DOJ won't let them succeed. And a big part of that, in my estimation, is the U.S. Attorney's offices actually around the country. Tell us how that works, and where does it stand?
Yeah, so we just talked about this. We have U.S. attorneys around the country. I think there are like 94 of them.
Yeah.
And then you have these federal prosecutors, assistant United States attorneys. Well, the problem is you have some of these offices like the Southern District of New York and Manhattan who don't think that they report to anyone. And who they report to is the Deputy Attorney General, who reports to the Attorney General, who reports to the President of the United States, who was elected by the American people. And you have prosecutors up in the Southern District of New York, and they think it's the Sovereign District of New York, and they don't think that they report to anyone. And so Amel Bove, President Trump's acting Deputy Attorney General, who came from the Southern District of New York in a past life, gave the Southern District of New York an important civics lesson. And he made it very clear to the attorney, to the U.S. attorney and the assistant U.S. attorneys up there that, listen, guys, this idea that you don't report to anyone is over. It's dangerous. You report through the chain of command, and if you don't like it, too damn bad, go get another job.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm all about the chain of command, and we're seeing that much more in play and being respected, and the rule of law and the Constitution. And so, by the way, President Trump confirmed a lot of judges in his first term, as you recall. What vacancies are we looking at there? What does it look like? What do you think? What's your expectation level? I'm always excited for an opportunity to get great judges in.
Well, unfortunately, fortunately, I guess, we broke so much China in President Trump's first term. I broke so much China in the Senate as the chief counsel for nominations. We confirmed a record number of President Trump's judges and set up the conveyor belt. Unfortunately, Joe Biden took advantage of that conveyor belt and confirmed a record number of his radical judges.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There aren't enough. There aren't a lot of vacancies left to fill, but I'll tell you this, that the Article 3 project will be working very closely with President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi and White House counsel David Warrington and their teams to make sure that President Trump picks even more bold and fearless judges in his second term. President Trump's biggest and most consequential accomplishment in his first term was the transformation of the Supreme Court and the lower federal courts, particularly the courts of appeals. He's going to build on that in his second term with even more bold and even more fearless judges.
I really believe it. I'm looking forward to Supreme Court pick or two as well. What role can the executive branch have in these, hostile jurisdictions, especially on the issues of DEI and immigration?
Well, on the immigration front, these jurisdictions that think that they're sanctuary cities are meeting a very mean and effective man named Tom Homan, and he's not going to put up with their nonsense, and nor is Pam Bondi.
No.
So if they want to be charged with harboring illegal immigrants, keep doing what you're doing. I don't think that Tom Homan or Pam Bondi would have any problem putting one of these sanctuary city mayors in prison for harboring illegal immigrants. But so I think that the illegal immigrant issue is going to take care of itself. You're seeing illegal immigrants deporting themselves, self-deporting, and that I would say instead of bringing in fentanyl, President Trump is bringing in illegal immigrants with $5 million gold cards and now even Ukrainian minerals. So it's a great thing for this country. And look, President Trump is not messing around in his second term. He's hiring people who are bold, who are fearless, who are serious, and they were ready to govern on day one as the left and the uniparty in D.C. learned the hard way.
We also saw a Jack Smith EO this week targeting the Covington law firm. What do we need to know about that? It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I would say this. The president is the commander in chief. He gets to decide, and he alone gets to decide who gets classified information and who does not. And when you have law firms, whether it's Covington and Burling or other law firms like Perkins Coie, participating in unprecedented Republic-ending lawfare and election interference, where you have politicized and weaponized intel agencies and law enforcement making up the Russian collusion hoax and lying to the FISA court and coming up with the Crossfire Hurricane investigation and then covering it up with unprecedented lawfare, 4 indictments, a civil fraud lawsuit trying to bankrupt Trump for non-fraud, trying to throw him off the ballot. If you aid and abet that effort, you probably shouldn't be touching classified records. So President Trump made sure that that doesn't happen.
And these white shoe law firms across the country have been an arm of the left. What does that look like now?
It's amazing where these fancy law firms were so confident that President Trump was done after the Mar-a-Lago raids. And I don't think they expected that the American people wouldn't accept the fact that these left-wing radical prosecutors and agents and judges and jurors and these Democrat hellholes were going to decide the election instead of the American people. And so these white shoe law firms are going to get a MAGA boot up their behinds pretty quickly.
Well, it's happening so fast, just a bit over, 30 days. And it's pretty exciting to see the tremendous amount of, results and promises made, promises kept. I mean, give me your highlight reel, Mike, of what you think was most effective, most important, essential that he's accomplished. And also further, what would you like to see going forward as he fulfills his promises to the American people?
When President Trump ran in 2016, he had never run for office. He had never held office. And I think he'll even admit that his mistake was personnel. He hired people who were too DC insider, too swamp. He didn't make that mistake this time. He's hiring bold and fearless people led by White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. She is no nonsense. And they are assembling an all-star cabinet, an all-star White House team, and they are getting stuff done. They're ready to govern on day one with executive orders and they have legislative priorities. They are bold. They are fearless. They are going to get a lot of things done. They've already gotten more done in 4 weeks than Joe Biden got done in 4 years.
So good.
And I am very excited for Pam Bondi and her team at the Justice Department to make sure that there is much needed accountability for the unprecedented Republican-ending lawfare against President Trump, his top aides like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, who went to prison, his supporters on January 6th who were persecuted, parents, Christians. There's going to be accountability for this. Nobody is above the law.
All right. And tell us about the new U.S. Attorney in D.C., Ed Martin. Talk about the seismic shift that we're witnessing.
Ed Martin's a friend of mine, and I'm very happy to support his nomination for the U.S. Attorney. He's going to focus the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office on real crimes, violent street crimes, that guess who those hurt the most in Washington, D.C.? Poor Black people stuck in these crime-ridden hellhole neighborhoods are going to benefit the most because President Trump is putting Ed Martin in charge of street crimes in D.C. instead of Joe Biden putting Matthew Graves in charge of rounding up grandmas who trespassed and took selfies on January 6th, 2021.
It's so crazy. I can't believe we're still dealing with that. Look, I mean, President Trump, I think also, I just want to talk to you for 2 seconds about just the legality and some of the principles, of what's happening now with the deportations. Like you said, Tom Homan, amazing. Border security is national security. How do you see that going and working out and just sort of the legal ramifications there?
Just President Trump getting out there and stopping the mass invasion of our country, closing down the CBP-1 app that Biden set up to mass import these illegal immigrants, stopping these sanctuary cities, telling the employers that they're going to be charged for employing these people, stopping the federal government from putting them up in hotels, stopping the benefits. We have a new sheriff in town. President Trump is making it very clear that America is open to people who want to come here and follow the law and contribute, and people like Agua gangs get the hell out.
Yeah. And let's talk about you, shall we? What is the Article 3 project up to?
We've been very busy, Kimberly.
I know.
We helped President Trump win this lawfare against him, helped with the 4,500 media hits over several years, turned lemons into lemonade, and helped him win back the White House. Now we're focused on President Trump's cabinet picks. Remember, all the very smart people in Washington said Kash Patel and Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. were dead on arrival. Their nominations were dead on arrival. And then we had over 50,000 Americans make over 200,000 phone calls and emails and social media posts to their home state senators. We went from dead on arrival to when can they start in about 3 days. Now we got President Trump's cabinet picked. We're working on their sub-cabinet, and we're gonna help President Trump pick and confirm his judges. We are gonna be with President Trump every single day, every step of the way for the next 4 years at the Article 3 project.
I love it. You guys are doing such a great job and really a tremendous job with all those cabinet picks as well and helping usher them through. Pretty exciting. I mean, every day is like a big breaking news day with President Trump. So it's always something happening. And then, like you said, we're going to wait and see with these Epstein files. You expecting anything big out of that, by the way?
Well, I would say this. I mean, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, said that there were over 250 victims of this monster. There has to be accountability for this.
All right. Well, let's make sure it'll happen. I think with Pam in there, it for sure will. Mike Davis, thank you again. You're a great patriot and our favorite lawyer. Much more breaking news coverage just ahead. But first, check out the 1775 Coffee Company. We talk about it all the time. Don't compromise on taste, on quality, or your values. And 1775 Coffee is brewed to perfection, crafted with precision, and built on patriotism. The farm-to-cup process means there is quality, authenticity, and sustainability from start to finish. All the beans are ethically and exclusively single-sourced. So why not? Try 1775 Coffee today. Go to 1775coffee.com/KG and you will get 15% off your first order. A big deal. It's a good deal. Why not try it? And I also want to bring you a special message from Patriot Lifestyle, where you can save more and spend less on a whole host of different lifestyle benefits, from savings on travel, identity theft, legal services, and even pet care. Take a look. Guilfoyle here, and I'm so excited to introduce the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program. With our benefits program, you get a range of lifestyle benefits at an affordable price, so you can save money and stay secure. For example, as a member, you will access exclusive discounts with NB Cash Back, so you can save more on your everyday expenses like groceries, restaurants, and even auto services. And with NB Travel, you can experience more but spend less by enjoying deep discounts on flights, hotels, entertainment, and so much more. These benefits are available to you and your immediate family to use anytime, anywhere. We also offer identity theft protection, so you can stay on top of any unauthorized, fraudulent, or illegal activity. And access free and discounted legal services, so you can protect your rights and receive top legal advice without breaking the bank. Plus, enjoy peace of mind on the highway with our roadside assistance program. And even take care of your furry friends with discounts on pet food, toys, medicine, grooming, and even trips to the vet. Our program is designed specifically for America First patriots like you, who understand the importance of letting your dollars reflect your values and supporting companies who support you. And the best part of all of this, our benefits are at below market prices, so you can enjoy all of them while living the Patriot lifestyle to the fullest. So don't miss out. Visit our website at patriotbenefits.net. That's patriotbenefits.net. Thank you again for choosing the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program, where real benefits and real savings are our top priority. Join us today and start saving now. And you can go to patriotbenefits.net to learn more, because these programs all come at extraordinary value and they will greatly improve your life. Now, as President Trump ramps up deportations along with border czar Tom Homan, he's also sending a strong message to ruthless dictators that the era of appeasement is over, canceling the Biden-era Chevron license to operate in Venezuela as Maduro continues to terrorize his own people and wants to flood America with more violence. But President Trump is keeping us safe and secure and making it clear that his corruption and oppression will not be tolerated. Joining me now, President of Bienvenido, my great friend, Abraham Enriquez.
Hey, Kimberly, great to be with you.
All right. Congratulations again on an incredible presence at inauguration and the most popular, well-attended, most fun party by far, the Bienvenido Gala. So that was wonderful to be a part of it. You and Betty did a fabulous job. So let's talk about President Trump. Yesterday ended oil and gas licenses to operate in Venezuela under dictator Maduro. Obviously, many Venezuelan Americans and Latino Americans supported President Trump, in part because he doesn't tolerate nonsense from these despots. What is your reaction to that? What did you think about the news? Did you think that that was going to be coming down the pipeline?
Yeah,
Pun intended.
well, Kimberly, I had to say, you mentioned a little earlier in your segment that every day it feels like Christmas with
Yes.
this administration. Going back real quick to the ball, just because I had to give you credit, KG, and your members must know that as soon as we announced you as chair of the Hispanic inaugural ball, it completely ballooned to the largest ball that inauguration history has seen with Hispanics. So thank you for your support. Thank you for believing in our community, obviously. But you're right, Kimberly, the Biden administration has coddled the Maduro regime every step of the way. You get President Trump in and he stops this pipeline of funding of the resources that allowed Maduro to thrive, which, by the way, also caused a lot of illegal immigration, people fleeing from Venezuela, making the dangerous trek across Mexico and crossing our border illegally. By cutting off this funding, which, by the way, is about $2 to $3 billion annually, President Trump is sending a clear message that America will no longer fund regimes that oppress the people and basically give a backhand to America. So it's amazing to see that we have great leadership, true leadership in the Oval Office now. And so I think all Hispanics and all Americans should be celebrating this decision.
Absolutely. And President Trump is also ramping up deportations of violent criminals. Border crossings are down, which is fantastic. Thanks be to God. What does this do to strengthen Latino communities here in South Florida and across the country?
Of course, Kimberly, you and I sat down close to a year ago strategizing on how we were going to best mobilize the Hispanic vote. And we saw areas like in South Texas, Harlingen, Brownsville, McAllen. You saw Tucson, Arizona. You saw Mesa, Arizona. You saw Clark County, Nevada, Lehigh County in Pennsylvania. These are heavily Hispanic populated districts that were negatively being affected by illegal immigration. We sat down with parents who were concerned that drug use was going on in their children's homes. We saw parents that were nervous about their neighborhoods that were once peaceful, now being violently taken over by illegal gang disruption. It's easy for a Hollywood elitist out in New York or in Miami or in LA to turn a blind eye to illegal immigration. But illegal immigration affects Hispanic communities the most because these are our communities or our resources that are strained by illegal immigration. President Trump knew that. So on the campaign trail, talking about the largest mass deportation campaign that we'd see. Well, for Hispanic families, that means no more drugs in their children's homes, no more being scared of when the sun goes down in their neighborhoods. And with President Trump delivering on that promise, I think that is just showing that he showed up and he proved that he's going to get things done with Hispanic support. As I traveled the country, Kimberly, and I've spoken to voters, they love this. They love knowing that their communities are being safeguarded, and for once, there finally is a leader that's being focused on strengthening those that have been left behind by the previous administration.
Sure. And, there's a new story in The Hill, and it's laying out how Democrats are actually struggling, which they should be, to win back Hispanics, taking our community for granted for too long. How did President Trump, like we've discussed and strategized and implemented, win him over, in your opinion? And more importantly, how do Republicans keep them? Just because you have something, you have to be careful to earn it every day, to keep it, and honor the commitment and support that they provided to the Republican Party and to President Trump.
Exactly. And, you hit the nail on the head there, Kimberly, just showing up and ensuring that Hispanics feel heard and that they feel protected, that their vote is counted for, in the sense that what they voted for a candidate to do, they're actually going to do it. What did President Trump do? He showed up, but he also dispatched the best surrogates, which was his family. I mean, he had you going out to Hispanic communities, breaking down policy in a way that the everyday Hispanic could understand and could obtain that information. But look, 47%, that is the percentage that President Trump got with the Hispanic vote. That is the largest share of Hispanic support that any Republican presidential candidate has had in history. Not only that, he won every single battleground state and the popular vote. If I'm a Democrat, I'm seeing this as a huge wake-up call. So immediately after the elections, Kimberly, I thought that the Democrat Party convention was going to be a good way for us to see if the Democrat Party understood their mistakes and was willing to maybe re-educate themselves and change their platform. But to our benefit, not to theirs, they're actually, nailing down what they believe in. They're doubling down on this idea that gender ideology, things like Latinx, belongs in our community. Things like this radical Green New Deal is what is going to thrive in America. They haven't learned anything. But just because they haven't learned anything and they're not going to change their messaging, exactly what you said, does not mean that Republicans should sit back. I think it's time for us to take the policies that President Trump is enacting, the leadership that he's pushing forward, and taking it down to our communities. And that's where organizations like ourselves, Bienvenido, that's where we come in, ensuring that our community is informed and educated on the right things that President Trump is doing. Yes. Because you and I both know, Kimberly, that the mainstream media will never give President Trump credit for the accomplishments that he's doing. So I'm just excited. I think that this is a new journey for our party, but a great way for us to show that, when you court the vote, you get it. And, going back to our Hispanic inaugural ball, Kimberly, I think that is such an important thing to talk about, because it proved one thing. It proved that when you show up and you ask Hispanics to show out, they do, and they do it in record numbers. So I'm just thrilled to ensure that we see more of that on our side.
Oh my gosh, so exciting, right? It really is. It's exhilarating. It's thrilling. It's historical. And I just want to keep this precedent, going. and respected in every way possible. So the MAGA movement now includes, so many young people like yourself, even though you're a big overachiever, quite the man in the Latino community. What is resonating with the younger generation? Why do you think, we're being able to, pull them in? I mean, I give yourself, quite frankly, and your organization a lot of credit for that because you're drawing them in. So I don't know, I want to kind of see how you think about it, because after you go through an election like this, you want to say, okay, what do you think, now when you have the numbers in, what do you think worked so well? What can you attribute it to? All of the above.
Yeah, look, Kimberly, a couple things about the Hispanic electorate. Two things are really important. One, the average age of Hispanics in America, 29 years old. We're the youngest racial demographic in the country. You talk to 29-year-old Hispanics, you know what they care about? They care about, how am I going to start a family? How can I afford to start a family? How can I purchase a home? How can I buy into the American dream? But then also something that I think President Trump did extremely well was he was able to bring in this demographic of Hispanic, particularly Mexican men that have really never voted in the past. They have never been enthralled with getting involved in the election cycle. And here you have this blonde-haired, blue-eyed billionaire from New York married to this supermodel that is fighting for this American dream. There's something that made Mexican-American men get out of the house, get out of, being in their comfort zone and going out and voting for someone who, showed us that the most macho thing you can do this last election cycle was vote to preserve the American dream on the ballot box. So whoever is eyeing any kind of run in the next couple election cycles, they have to understand that how do you motivate and keep this base alive? With strictly just keeping American values alive at the ballot box. You and I both know, Kimberly, that there's nothing more appreciative than when people go out and show their story and, just give it to them as it is and say, this is why I need your support. And Hispanics, they like that. They like to be talked to like everyday Americans, not some Harvard-educated professors that the liberal left tends to send into our communities. And I think that President Trump understood that. And so I think any candidate that wants to court the Hispanic vote should take a copy of the President Trump's book on how to court the Hispanic vote.
There we go. We've had a lot of conversations, pretty interesting about that. That's for sure. So let's talk about you and Bienvenido. What do you feel like is your next? You're always setting like goals and benchmarks for yourself. What's next for Bienvenido? How are you looking ahead? At the months, the years, and decades. I know you always have a build out plan. You share that with the donors and supporters. What does it all look like?
Kimberly, President Trump, quite honestly, took a bullet for America, for our country. And it's up to us, it's up to organizations like ourselves and leaders like you and I to go out and ensure that President Trump continues to have the leadership in the House and the Senate to get some of his priorities across the finish line. You and I both know that we can't afford to lose in the midterm elections. So what are we doing as an organization? We established a really robust outreach in critical swing counties in Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and in Georgia. Looking ahead, Kimberly, we have a Senate race up for grabs in Virginia. We have a Senate race up for grabs in Louisiana. We have a Senate race up for grabs in Ohio, as well as a couple governor races across those states as well. So I'm really excited that, the first half of this year, what we're truly doing is building out a plan. And by the end of the summer, we're going to be launching Bienvenido chapters in Virginia, in Ohio, and Louisiana. And I'm just so thrilled because that means that, we will now be present in over 7 states, meaning we will be the fastest growing Hispanic organization that is Trump aligned. And we're going to do our part to ensure that Hispanic voters show up to keep the House, save the Senate, and ensure that President Trump has 2 more years to ensure that the policies that benefit everyday Americans are pushed into the White House. So that's what we're doing. And you and I both know, Kimberly, we have a game plan. We know how to get it done. And so we're going to prove to President Trump that he has the best people on the ground to ensure he has 4 years of great prosperity.
Excellent. And so I'm excited about that. That sounds like a fantastic footprint and idea and build out that you have in mind. And let's talk about this too, because I think, you have a lot of enthusiasm in the way that you deliver your public speaking, your television appearances, whether you're one-on-one or in front of a group. What is your message to supporters to keep up this momentum and to turn out in these very critical midterms as you've discussed?
Yeah, absolutely. Kimberly, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for my grandparents who immigrated here in the early 70s. And I grew up hearing about this American dream. Growing up about this country that was always aligned to godly values. The things that my grandparents loved so much about America today are slowly being drifted away by this push from the liberal left that wants to separate God and country. So it is up to me. It's up to people like myself, young people, to go out and ensure that the American dream and that the America that our grandparents so fondly, cared about and fought to protect, that fight is now ours. And so every election cycle is the most important election cycle of our lifetime. We've always hear it, but this past election cycle, we proved one thing. Now, when we unite, regardless of race and background and where we come from, when we unite on one mission, and that mission is to keep America great, we win every single time. And so to every supporter that feels like, maybe their tiny momentum doesn't add up to anything big, I assure you that when a lot of us gather together, the largest minority voting bloc in the country gathers together to preserve the American dream, big things happen. And when big things happen, our communities are safeguarded, the American dream is safeguarded, our families are, they have prosperity in this country. So all it takes is just a little bit of action for big momentum, and that's what Bienvenido is here to do, is to put that enthusiasm and that energy back into our community, because we know the left is lacking it. So might as well take advantage of that momentum today.
Yeah, you're right about that. Well, I'll tell you, I know there's an extraordinarily bright future for you, my friend. He is an overachiever. Let me tell you, he underpromises and
the only thing I
overdelivers.
really want is to be the travel assistant to the ambassador of Greece.
Yeah.
That's really the job I'm applying for. So you let me know when there's that opening, and I will.
Oh yeah.
I'll be singing in those shoes.
I love it. I said they better get ready for the Greek-Arican who's coming, and yeah, let's all head over there. We'll open up a Bienvenido there as well.
We should.
So fun. Well, again, tell everyone where they can go to find out more information, get involved, support Bienvenido. Take it away.
Absolutely. For all information, please join us at www.bienvenido.us and all our social media channels at bienvenido.us. We look forward to welcoming you to the Bienvenido family.
Fantastic. And it's a great family indeed to be a part of. Again, thank you, the president of Bienvenido, Abraham Enriquez, and make sure and follow him across all platforms as well. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, KG.
God bless. And my closing remarks just ahead, but don't forget about protecting your savings with the Birch Gold Group, because you got all the money now because Trump's in. With President Trump back in office, you are going to have more money in your paycheck and more opportunities to prepare for the future. Birch will take you through the process step by step. They will answer any questions, and they're going to help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. You don't have to pay a penny out of pocket. What do you need to do? Text KG to 989898 today. That's KG to the number 989898. And in closing, Americans deserve the best of the keeping them safe, and the Trump administration. Anything less is unacceptable. And that is exactly what we, the American people, are getting. Safety at home, safety abroad, in our schools, and in our cities and towns across the country. Sleep well at night knowing President Trump is in office. Thank you so much for joining us today on this very important episode. And please be sure to download the Rumble app, subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, like and share, and then also tell all your friends. Why not? Make their life better so they know exactly where to find us. And please also be sure to follow me across all platforms: X, Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And please stay tuned to Rumble for all the latest breaking news coverage. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you again soon. God bless you.